Now, I'm sorry about this, but I do have great difficulty with some of the modern medicines used in herbal medicine, like echinacea and evening primrose, and I do not understand why people think they work or how they work. I think it's magic, but somebody will explain to me one day, and I will be happy. I don't know how you stimulate the immune system, all right, apart from getting a cold or boil or chicken pox or something like that. But they did have some interesting plants, and one of the things they were good at, because they had no idea how the liver worked or the lungs worked or anything like that worked, they didn't know about the brain because they had to think with it. And so plants which affected the brain and perception of pain, they were well aware of. And in the middle we have the opium poppy, and that was used as an analgesic according to the Eborus Papyrus in 1550 BC, before the Christian era. And what you did was to get the seed pods and you scratch them, and if you're the Afghanis, that's what you do, and then you wait till it dries and you harvest the dried sap, which is opium, which contains morphine, codeine and lots of different alkaloids, which are analgesic. You and I don't have to bother, you just wipe that off with your finger, 3 lines is enough, and nick it, and about 20 minutes later you will have a nice little high, all right? You all knew this, didn't you? This is why you came. It's nice thing about families is that the families have evolved and they tend to contain the same chemicals, and the genera particularly. So Papaver orientalis on the left contains codeine predominantly, whereas somniferum contains morphine, codeine and other things. And so the chemical content of a plant is very similar within a genus. But there are some variations, and even within families, and this is Papaveraceae, we have glaucine, which is being smoked by hippies these days. We have Papavereus, the common English poppy. Those of you who come from North America are not allowed to grow the opium poppy, but you can grow the common English corn poppy, which is stuffed full of morphine, and even the petals will make a good tea, and the seed heads, Dioscorides said 6 seed heads in a glass of hot water will give you a good night's sleep. Escultia californica, the Californian poppy. Very difficult to find out what it does contain, but it's said to be sedative. I just show you the molecules up there, taken from Wikipedia. You know, it's not that bad. Do you know what rios means? It's Greek for to drop off. And people think it means the petals drop off, but not a bit of it. You drop off to sleep. So these are things which they took as teas, or they chewed, or whatever, or they licked the sap, and they found they worked, and they worked quickly, and so those things went down in history. They have quick actions, they were reliable, and they were painkillers. They reduced pain, but they were well aware that if you took it regularly, you got into problems with addiction, and they were well aware of the problems if you took too much. What was a therapeutic dose became a poison. Now this is your intrepid explorer in Peru investigating the properties of cocaine. And on the right is me. On the middle is a gentleman with a little gourd with some chalk inside it, bottom here. And the man on the end has got a handful of coca leaves, and obviously you chew the leaves and you use the chalk to help break down the leaves, and that produces cocaine, which is a stimulant and a local anesthetic, and all the problems associated with that. So simply chewing a leaf, people discovered things which they liked and went on. And now you just extract the cocaine from the leaf and you can have pure cocaine, which is much more of a problem. Anyway, in about 1920s, Russian scientists observed that camels wouldn't eat arundodonax, this tall grass here, shown here. And they wondered why. The fact it's full of of silica, which is why cows won't eat it, and camels certainly won't eat it, was neither here nor there, and they found in it a chemical which molecularly had some resemblance to cocaine, and they called it lidocaine or lignocaine, our first local anesthetic. So a plant which had no use in herbal medicine before was investigated for a curious reason and was found to contain lignocaine. And from that, the chemists, pharmaceutical companies, fiddle with the molecule and make local anesthetics which last longer, like xylocaine or methocaine and so forth. Nowadays you can, having discovered the molecule, you can make this molecule entirely synthetically, starting with something like sugar. Now there's a fascinating group of plants which were very important in early medicine, which were the Solanaceae. And the Solanaceae nearly all of them contain chemicals which act on acetylcholine receptors in the nervous system of the human body. And they contain things, but mandrake in particular was thought to be a magical plant because its roots look like a human body with 2 legs and sometimes with 2 arms, and there were male and female mandrakes which had some slight anatomical difference. And our mandrake, you all know the story about digging up mandrakes, so I won't repeat it, but our mandrake we dug up, and it was a very emancipated mandrake doing yoga because it's got 1 leg round the back of its neck. And the roots and whole of this plant, the flowers, the leaves, the stem contain atropine, scopolamine, and so forth. And poultices of mandrake were used, or sort of drinks of mandrake were used as anesthetic agents to make you so intoxicated you became unconscious and you could have amputations. But they were aware it was very dangerous. And they did apply a lot of plants as poultices, knowing they were safer, and mandrake as a poultice on fungating cancers was used for relieving the pain. A phenomenon which I don't understand, but I'll come back to later. And here's the fruit of mandrake looking just like the flowers, looking just like a tomato, which of course it is. Solanaceae still, Scopolia carniolica in Solanaceae, source of scopolamine, used like atropine as a pre-med to dry up your secretions before an operation, also used as a truth drug by the KGB, because like any neurological intoxicant, it made you first of all happy, then drunk, and then disinhibited. You then confessed all, and then you couldn't remember anything, and then you became unconscious, and when you woke up you didn't remember anything. And so the KGB could tell you, you've confessed all, now tell us the rest. And it's used as a pre-med for the same reason, so that if you wake up after your scopolamine pre-med in the middle of the operation, you can't sue the anaesthetist because you won't remember it. Henbane, again, another source of all of these things. Recently recommended by Mr. Worrell Thompson, the celebrity chef, said everybody should pick a little bit of henbane and put it on their salads. He meant fat hen, but there we are. Not quite the same thing. Every bit of it is poisonous. Again, Solanaceae, Physalis alcakenga, the Chinese lanterns, every single bit of it is poisonous except the very ripe fruit. If you eat the fruit when it's green, it's stuffed full of tropane alkaloids like atropine, extremely unpleasant. If you eat it when the fruit, and we tried that on the head gardener, she agreed, and when she wasn't looking, I thought I would try the ripe fruit inside the red calyx. Ditto, it's still very poisonous. It isn't until the plant wants it to be eaten and it is covered with a skeleton so the bird can see it that it tastes nice and isn't stuffed full of poisons. Isn't that fun? But when you get this at a celebrity dinner, don't eat the outer casing, it's full of poisons, just the fruit. And it's being investigated because physalins are being found useful or possible useful for treating Gaucher's syndrome, a disorder of lipid metabolism, a congenital disorder of lipid metabolism. So there are new things coming out of these plants. And of course, henbane of Peru, or tobacco, was discovered and thought to be wonderfully medicinal, and I just show it growing, that's Nicotiana tabacum and rustica growing in Peru. Nice plant. They had no idea about long-term side effects of plants, the early herbalists, none whatsoever. And the fact it was introduced into this country in 1518, the same year as the physicians were founded, is neither here nor there, but it took 450 years for people to realize the long-term side effects of tobacco. 1 person dies every 8 seconds from a disease caused by tobacco. And if the Chinese go on smoking at their present rate, by 2020, 1 person every 4 seconds.